Jess Hilarious has completely forgotten the fact that the Breakfast Club never really liked her to begin with, and also forgot her place on the Breakfast Club. And I think we should have a conversation about that, especially just how the state of the Breakfast Club is, and do people want that in the grand year of 2025? Let's talk about it. Hello, you guys. Welcome or welcome back to the Cake Radio Show. I'm the CakeDive, and today we're going to be talking about Jess Hilarious and the Breakfast Club and all the drama that's been going on with that. So, for those who, well, you're watching the video, so you're probably following it. Um, the Breakfast Club is a, do we call, I can't call it, it's a radio show. Um, and it is a radio show that has been kind of a focal point in black media for a long time. The show, talks about music. It brings a lot of black, influencers, artists, celebrities onto the show. They talk about them on the show through like their drama and tea. Um, and the show has been around for a minute, and it has had a lot of fame and infamy throughout the years for a lot of moments that they've had on the show, good and bad ones. And the um situation that has been going on with Jess Hilarious, which for those who don't know Jess Hilarious, I don't blame you. Jess Hilarious is quote unquote a comedian who joined the Breakfast Club. I believe it's been a few years, either a few years ago, as the replacement on-air personality for Angela Yee. The Breakfast Club has DJ was originally DJ Envy, who was committing like house fraud. Angela Yee, who has left the show to start her own show. I think it's called On the Come Up with Angela Yee. And then Charlamagne the God, who is one of the bigger personalities, has his own controversies and stuff as well. Low key a loser, but we're not gonna get into that. They all low key losers with the exception of kind of like Angela Yee. Angela Yee was kind of weird, but was mostly just like a chill girl who had to hold things down. Um, she left to start her own show, and then there was a minute in which it was just a sausage fest. It was just DJ Envy and Charlamagne the God, and eventually they picked Jess Hilarious to replace Angela Yee. Now, Jess was very excited to be on the show as a personality. She, announced that she was coming to the show, and there was radio silence from the Breakfast Club and iHeartRadio about the announcement. Um, and then she hopped on the show. She kind of replaced and started doing a lot of things that Angela was doing, you know, like the drama report. Instead of the drama report, it was Jess with the mess. And all these different things. I'm talking about this like I be watching the show. Let me just preface this and say I was watching The Breakfast Club when Angela Yee was on, but like here and there. I was like listening into it because again, there was moments that people would talk about on the show that, I wanted to keep up with as like point of reference. And then also the fact that sometimes, you know, you have the radio on. And those minutes in which you have to have the radio on, it's like, okay, I'll try to listen into this and see what's going on and see what my thoughts are on it. But once Angela left and Jess came on, I stopped watching. There was no point in me watching, especially because of the fact that I don't like Jess Hilarious for the reason that that woman is a transphobe, and it's also severely funny. Like I believe she made a joke against she made an Islamophobic joke, first of all. Or I believe it's either that or she was on a plane. There was one situation where she was being weird regarding people who believe in Islam. So there was strike one. Strike two, one of my bigger strikes was the fact that she made a very out of pocket joke about Megan Thee Stallion getting shot. Very gross, very weird, very disrespectful. Third strike, the fact that she was transphobic. And as someone who later, especially being on the Breakfast Club, ended up having to experience transphobia, And instead of it being an eye opening experience for her, being like, wow, maybe I've been too harsh on trans people, because now that I've experienced it, maybe now that I've experienced transphobia despite being a cis woman, maybe I should give some love. Maybe I should change my tune, and maybe this will help my case out. No, she doubled down. She doubled down. Not my phone going off. Oh, anyways, but she was on the show for a minute. She had been a co-host since 2024, so it's only been like a year. It's only been a year, and she went on maternity leave last summer to, obviously have a kid. She had a kid, interestingly enough, and to fill her spot, they replaced her quote unquote temporarily, with Lauren LaRosa, who used to be with TMZ as a producer. She also was a producer on the show for a minute. They picked her to fill in for Jess's segments during the time that she was on maternity leave, and this was a decision that iHeartMedia and The Breakfast Club made together. Jess eventually returned to the show on November 8th, after giving birth, but Lauren stayed with the show as kind of another co-host, and eventually began hosting her own segments on the show. And recently, Jess made an Instagram live basically ranting about the situation, saying that she was upset with the fact that basically Lauren's show was placed into what used to be Jess's slot and was brought in as a regular of the show without Jess being informed that that was happening. She was also upset that she felt like the show basically did not consider her being on maternity leave as a thing, and did not give her grace and timing with that. And eventually the situation got out and said that they ended up both being on the show, and they ended up having a public spat on the show, a public conversation that should have been private on the show, publicly on the radio. And now the girls are talking about it. Now, what are my thoughts on all this? So for starters, I'll give Jess some points, and I'll give, the op some points. Because the thing is, while I don't like Jess as a person, there is some points that she has that were valid in this moment. A lot of people don't, in this society, maternity leave is still kind of, and pregnancy is still kind of treated as a back burner thing. Because it's kind of weird how, in society, being married and having kids is what society wants for you, and you're kind of punished if you're a single individual. So you literally will get tax benefits and support if you're married to somebody, and if you have kids, you can get tax credits for having kids. So there's that. But in the world of business, maternity leave is low-key taboo, in the sense that here in the States, when someone goes on maternity leave, there's very few businesses out there that will legitimately give whoever has to go on maternity leave grace, and still hold their spot for real when they're gone, even when it's not a maternity leave thing. If you are gone for an extended period of time, whether you're sick, whether you have grievances, or something happening in the family, happening, anything like that, if it's for an extremely extended period of time, companies will obviously they'll bring someone in to temporarily fill the position that you had to take off, that you filled, but they also are having conversations about possibly replacing you. I remember one business I was working at, and this was my second to last job my previous job. when I joined them and I started working for them, they were trying to literally groom me for a position that was being held by someone who was on maternity leave. And, they're like, oh, we're going to temporarily have you like do some of the work for, her position that she would usually do. And we eventually would like you to be in a position where you're working with her, and eventually we'll probably end up replacing her in her position because, and she was saying the boss who was telling me this was saying something that had me like go, interesting. So this is a common thing for businesses. Like if you literally have to take off for like anything, like they are ready to replace you, you are replaceable. And it's a sad truth. It's a sad truth. If you are, not believing of that, maybe you should run a business that changes that. Who knows? Maybe this should be something that we should change. But I feel like businesses in general do not consider, people who have to leave for extended periods of time or maternity leave as a good thing, because you are on the hook and they're missing someone to do the work, and they're missing someone to like fill the space, and they want to figure that out and keep making money. So there's that. I do believe that they should have held space with her, or at least communicated up front that they weren't going to hold space. So I think they were wrong for kind of like not informing her of how things were going to go. I also think that it was also wrong for them to like not tell her like how things are going to move going forward, because it would be one thing if they like came to her and was just like, oh hey, congrats on the baby, but we're just here to let you know that like Lauren is going to be someone who's going to stay on as an on-air personality with us, like another co-host with us going forward, and she is going to have a show, and it's going to be during what used to be your slot. We're still going to work with you, still do the things that we want to do with you, but this is the changes that we wrote out. Sorry. Like, instead of being like that, they just kind of let her like fuck around and find out. And I think that is a little bit wrong. But that's kind of where where I agree with her stops. Because again, I don't like the lady. But now we look at what I don't agree with her on. I think that she is being kind of rude to Lauren in this moment because of the fact that like Lauren had to fill in the role, and Lauren is seemingly not leaving. But Lauren is not leaving just because they are saying that she can't leave, or because she is trying to fight to stay there. Because Lauren seems very chill, and she seems very mature in the conversation and the clips I've been saying. She is staying because of the fact that people like Lauren on the show. The Breakfast Club has been in decline for years because of the fact that it's lost its luster in the space of black entertainment. You have people, first of all, you have more black hosts on different shows than you ever have been. Like, you have the Breakfast Club, sure, and they air on TV, on like BET and stuff like that, as well as on podcasts and on iHeartRadio stations across the United States. But you also have, daytime TV. You have the Jennifer Hudson show. You have Sherry Shepherd show, which I don't think people watch. You have other shows that were like rolling out during the time. Like, you had Z-Way's nighttime show, which got canceled by Showtime, and now she's doing it on YouTube. You have Amber Ruffin's show on Peacock, which I'm not too sure is still running or not. You have, going to YouTube. You have so many black personalities and like people trying to be black personalities, taking space and bringing in more personality than the Breakfast Club people did. And the other thing is, some of them, mostly the black women, are not colorist. They're not misogynistic or engaging in misogynoir that the Breakfast Club does. And black celebrities are also kind of changing how they tap into black media when they need something, or when they want to do press, or when they want to do interviews. A lot of people aren't necessarily heading to the Breakfast Club anymore because like they want to. It's because they have to. And some people are also just skipping the Breakfast Club altogether. Megan Thee Stallion did not appear on The Breakfast Club to do any rollout or promotion for her album, with the exception of doing a quick phone call talking about Hiss when they asked her about Hiss. And even then, you could tell that she was not going to talk too much with them because they was talking about her on the show, and she was not fucking with that. She was just here to get the 2 seconds to keep promoting the song, and that's it. And a lot of the newer black stars and celebrities, they have not been on The Breakfast Club whatsoever. Like, as a lot of the people who have been on The Breakfast Club as of late are people who need something, or like older repeat, black celebrities who have been on The Breakfast Club before. They kind of have a good relationship on The Breakfast Club and want to keep that going. Everybody else is either going to white media to do the interview, or they're heading to, the Breakfast Club, not the Breakfast Club, they're heading to like the daytime talk shows, or they're heading to YouTube. A lot of the black celebrities and influencers who have been popping up in recent years, they've mostly been doing a lot of their interviews with like the YouTube celebrities and influencers of like today. So like the Terrell show has been popping off. If I could give any recommendation, if there's any like, there's a YouTuber that I wish I could collab with on like the Cake Radio Show, oh, it would be Terrell, absolutely, because Terrell's been killing it. Terrell been doing incredible interviews for like music artists. The Terrell concert with Coco Jones was phenomenal. Like, there's such a craft to what he does, as well as a love for music and a love for these musicians that the Breakfast Club doesn't have. And Terrell has been able to build this like really strong platform for like black artists, but especially not even just black artists, but like female artists specifically. When the girls have been popping on Terrell. The girls are popping off on these other shows that are like being created for YouTube and for social media, because that is where people are tuning in on. And the people who are tuning in on like podcasts and stuff like that are usually like, they're usually popping off because of the fact that like they also happen to be available on these platforms on top of YouTube. So the appeal is there. Appeal isn't really on Breakfast Club. I feel like the Breakfast Club appeals to a lot of like a more older audience, like the Shade Room crowd, in which it's an audience that not really watching YouTube like that. They're not watching TikTok like that. They're not going to listen to a podcast like that for real. They tune into the radio hardcore. And like the sound bites and moments that they have for like the Breakfast Club now are not what they used to be. So the people are tuning in. The show's been on decline. And iHeartRadio is like, we need to do something like this, because unless you want us to pull the plug on this whole thing, once the contracts and stuff dry up, y'all got to think something. And Lauren was the person that they thought of. Lauren was the individual where they looked and was like, okay, like she is bringing the closest thing that we wanted to Angela Yee on the show as possible. Because the thing about the Breakfast Club is two dumbass men who are being wielded by one woman. Like, when it was Angela Yee on the show, it was DJ Envy and Charlamagne cutting up, being misogynistic, engaging misogynoir, being colorist, being stupid, sometimes even being racist and homophobic. And, Angela Yee kind of being there like, hey guys, like let's actually do this stuff. Let's actually get into the work. Let's talk about these things. And when it came to women being on the show compared to men, when there was a man on the show, DJ Envy and Charlamagne the Guy were very knowledgeable. They was asking the questions. They were doing a lot of things. And Angela Yee was in the background. When there was a woman on the show, for the most part, because there were some times in which they were knowledgeable, but there were a lot of times in which Charlamagne and Envy were mostly quiet. They weren't really asking any deep questions. It was very surface level stuff because they're not engaging in the media that these women are creating, and refused to like learn up and educate themselves before they got to the show. And even to the point in which like some of the women guests that they got would question them on it, and they're like, they got caught. And then Angela Yee was the one who was knowledgeable and was leading the show and asking them questions. And with Angela Yee gone And with Jess being in a space where she's not intelligent, sorry to say, but it's the truth. If she was intelligent, she wouldn't be transphobic. If she was intelligent, she wouldn't be making some of the jokes that she was making. If she was intelligent, she would have known why they needed to fill Angela's space and lean into that a little bit more. But she wasn't really trying to do that. She just thought she really got the show because of, her, like, quote unquote, like, her social media performance, not like anything that she does special. Like, they didn't look at her jokes and was like, oh, you funny, let's bring you on the show, because she was kind of an influencer, for, I guess, lack of better terms. I don't know what she influences, but okay. But they looked at Lauren and they're like, oh, like, she is filling like the role that we wanted someone to fill for Angela Yee for a minute. Like, she is someone who is knowledgeable. She's someone who has a news background. She's kind of a blogger because of TMZ, a blogger, a journalist, same shit. But she still, like, is doing the work, and she's asking the questions. She's doing the things that, they wanted her to do for a minute, and people are liking it. People were not really liking Jess on the show like that, because I've seen a lot of people be turned off by Jess and saying, like, oh, like, I used to watch The Breakfast Club, but I don't really watch it now because of Jess. Or, I used to like the show, but Jess is bringing something to the show that, like, I'm not really a fan of. And I think there is, like, some misogynoir that's engaged in that. I think some people also especially just don't like Jess because she's a dark-skinned Black woman. But I think a lot of people just don't like the fact that she is adding to the problem of The Breakfast Club rather than, like, improving The Breakfast Club. Lauren was able to kind of change that. So the fact that, like, just recently does feel slighted in the moment, she is, like, attacking this woman instead of being like, okay, like, let's work together on this to really, big each other up because the show needs this. It says a lot. I'm not too sure how this spat will end. I feel like they're just going to have to figure this out. And there's going to be some animosity going forward since they had the whole argument publicly on the radio. And Charlamagne and DJ Envy were just kind of quiet laughing at them, like eating popcorn and shit. But I wish the ladies nothing but the best as much as I can. I wish Lauren nothing but the best. Jess, I guess. But that's my thoughts on the Jess Hilarious with the Breakfast Club stuff. I hope you guys like this episode of the Cake Radio Show. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the situation. Do you agree with me on how I feel about Jess Hilarious? Do you agree with how I feel about, her situation in this moment? How do you feel about maternity leave at work? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel where you get episodes of the Cake Radio Show and a lot of other stuff here before anywhere else. Be sure to tune into my new documentary, Icons I.O. Debris, out now as of recording. And be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms because we're available both here on YouTube and elsewhere. That's it for me. I hope y'all have a good one. Bye-bye.